We get people reach out every single day, family members, other veterans, active duty people, and they all ask for help. Like, can I come sail for a week with you guys? I need to get away. I need help. Or a wife is like, my husband's super up. He needs to get away. He needs to go with you guys. Can you get him down? And so that kind of lights the process off with Samantha. She's our executive director. She starts the process of like, do you need a plane ticket? Do you need money to travel down here? And then arranging all their gear and food for the whole time we're here.
As a young child, Edwina Adams was quiet by nature. She would whisper when speaking. In boot camp, she was thrashed for not yelling loud enough. But when she discovered her ex-husband was a con man, she started to make noise, proving you don't have to be loud to make some noise. Now Edwina's on a mission to motivate. So kick back and tune in for candid conversations with those who have harnessed the power of their voices. Let's make some noise.
Welcome to Let's Make Some Noise, where no matter what you sound like, you can make some noise, and where noise is my acronym for a narrative of inspiration, strength, and encouragement. I'm Edwina Adams, and today I have noisemaker Taylor Grieger with me. He was a rescue swimmer in the Navy. He's a founder of Skeleton Crew Adventures and producer of the documentary Hell or High Seas, which you must go watch. It is incredible. And I'm not even just saying this because you're here with me today. I think it's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. It was very, very moving. So, Taylor, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. That's cool. Yeah, good introduction. I didn't know noise actually stood for something. That's interesting. That's cool. I like it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we all go through stuff in life, and the thing about it is, are we going to come out on the other end of that with just like being in the hole, or are we going to climb out of it, and can we do something positive with it? And that's why, you are a noisemaker, because you did just that. And people will know this once they hear your story and go watch the documentary. But tell us a little bit about yourself for those that don't know you.
Yeah, I'm pretty simple Texas man. I've got the same story just about everybody I served with is, same upbringing that I'm sure everybody here listening can relate to, and just a standard Texas life. I live in Texas City now because we run the nonprofit out of Kima. So between sailing and tequila and being a dad, that's what all of my days consist of.
Yeah. So you're talking about the sailing. So you started sailing after you got out of the military, and whenever that happened, that transition was hard for you, as it is for so many people. And sadly, that transition leads to just the worst thing imaginable, right? A lot of suicides. So are you comfortable today sharing, part of your journey with that and what led you to starting Skeleton Crew Adventure?
Yeah, for sure. We can jump into a little bit. I don't want to go too much into it because a lot of this is already covered in the documentary. But I think what's missing from the film is, talking about how alone you really feel when you're going through it. We actually, one of our really good buddies, it hit our community really hard. Chris Sabo died recently, 2 weeks ago. We're still kind of getting over that. He's like he was a guy in the military that always looked out for me, which I think it's every one of my buddies that have killed themselves are like the dudes that I looked up to and loved and were nice to me. Because there's a lot of people that just aren't nice people and try to go out of their way to make sure you have a bad day. But Chris was one of those guys that didn't. I was actually on restriction for a little bit in the Navy. What branch were you in? Were you in the Navy?
I was in the Air Force. My father was 20 years in the Navy. Grandfather 20 years in. My sister was in the Navy. I did Air Force though.
So I don't know what restrictions like in the Air Force, but in the Navy it's not fun. It's like a labor camp where you're moving rocks and cleaning everything, painting everything. Anyways, so everybody kind of just treats you really bad while you're doing it. And Chris was one of those guys that went out of his way to make sure like I was eating, And obviously we have time to go to chow, but most of the time we're too depressed and pissed off to eat anything. So he'd be the guy that like pull you out of the way and like, hey man, why don't you just come over, sit over here, and eat this sandwich I brought you.
Wow.
um, it's been guys like that every single time. And whenever I was in the Navy, and we talk about this in the film. I not for a second did I ever think about suicide, that I would have a problem whenever I got out, that it was going to be a hard transition. And I think that was probably the biggest problem I had whenever I got out, was it was such a shock, um, how my body reacted to not operating at that tempo anymore. And yeah, I had no idea what was happening or what to do about it. So you feel pretty alone, and then that just compounds on top of itself. And then when you talk about living like that for days, and then adds up to weeks, and then you go to the VA to try to get help, and they're like, the soonest we can see you is 6 months. And you're like, I'm not gonna freaking be here in 6 months, dude.
Yeah.
Um, so then you go back to your apartment or wherever you're living by yourself, and I don't know. For me, it was like there's no other option. Like I hated. You just hate living. Like there's no point to it. Like the world would go on. Like it doesn't matter if you're here, and if anything, it's better that you're not there because you're just a negative person. And my big thing, things that I still regret today is like whenever I was going through it, I was mean. I was mean in the military, which is a lot of the reason I had a lot of self hate because of who I turned in to be whenever I was in the Navy. So I was still mean whenever I got out, and like broke every person that cared about me. Any person that was close to me, any person that wanted to call and just see how I was doing, I broke them in half. And I think looking back on it now, like obviously in the moment it just kind of happens. I wasn't really aware of what I was doing. I think a part of me wanted to feel something, because you don't. Yeah, I don't know. You just don't feel anything at all. Like the world is emptiness and nothing. And yeah, it was a hard time, and I just didn't see a way out. So like, Chris killed himself. I don't know, my heart breaks, man, because I know exactly what they went through. It wasn't like one day they were like, "I'm going to kill myself today." That like for years has been living in pain. And
Yeah.
we weren't able to get to him or reach out to him. I didn't reach out to him. I thought he was fine. Um, yeah, it sucks. So it's hard. Yeah, getting out was really hard, and that's one thing we try to do with the film. We still tour it around the country. We'll work with a lot of nonprofits. We'll screen it and we'll talk about this. And it's still an issue because a lot of people still think the same way I thought. Like they're not going to have an issue, and that's my first question whenever I talk to active duty guys and women. I'm like, what kind of tempo are you operating? Are you going on deployments back to back? Like that's not sustainable. That's not
Yeah.
sustainable at all. You people like mine, I would come back for 2 or 3 months and then go on another deployment. I went on 4 deployments, and so we're sitting there in the audience, and people are like, "Yeah, I've been on 6 deployments." I'm like, "How much downtime have you had to recover from your first deployment?" I'm like, "Well, we did a workup for 3 months. We were back in the States, and then went on another one." I was like, "You're gonna have
Yeah.
an issue, man." No, you don't
Yeah.
think so now, but
It's too much.
you are. And then we get into how to heal, and that's what we do at Skeleton Crew, um, with adventure therapy, and it's I think it's really good work. We can get into it a little later. Like I actually really hate working for the nonprofit. It's one of the most frustrating things I've done in my life. But when we actually get out on the water, and you know we get men and women from around the country to come sail with us, I mean it makes it. You see it instantly. Like not right when they show up because people are usually still pretty pissed off and upset whenever they get to us. But as soon as we get on the water, probably within 2 hours, I could put a time on it. I'll see it in their face. Just when you see somebody's tension just release from their face, and you're like, all right, that they're feeling it, man. They're out on the
Hmm.
water. Um, makes it all worth it. I know it sounds cheesy, but it's really the only reason I keep this nonprofit going.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense to me. And whenever you explained it like that in the film, whenever you said, we're operating at this level and then we come down to this level and that's what throws you off. And I was like, oh, yeah, that does make sense. I mean, I've had my own spurts of it. I never thought of it like that, but that's what it can be, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of it like the adrenaline and stress every single day change. We talk about it in the film. Changes your brain physically, you know? I mean, that's people need to know that. People need to understand that you can't expect to operate like that for years and just be fine.
Right. And like you said, I mean, these military members that are going just back to back to back on deployments, I mean, we just weren't made to do that, you know, the
Yeah.
human mind to take that in nonstop. And what you've done with Skeleton Crew, just so people know, is you took a sailboat and you left Galveston Bay
I
and
left
you
Pensacola.
sailed where? Oh, Pensacola. I
Pensacola, yeah.
apologize. And you headed towards Cape Horn, right? And that was a major adventure. Where is Cape Horn exactly for people who don't know?
Southern tip of South America, just above Antarctica. It's really cold.
Really cold. So what is the distance like ultimately? I mean, I know it took you a while to get there.
Yeah, and our boat, which another thing I talk about in the screenings, because we get a lot of sailors that come to these, is I don't recommend it to anyone. Our boat was too small and had too many holes in it, and it took us 2 years, and a lot of that's because of the fire that happened when we were at sea, and we had to come back to Texas. Or I came back to College Station actually. I think you saw that in the film. We did some work with
Yeah.
A&M and Texags there to raise some money, and yeah, it's just good old Texas families rallied behind us, came out of nowhere and got us back down there to finish it. So that's part of the reason it took so long. Um, if we were to do it, we have a new boat now, Godspeed. And if we were to do it in her, it'd probably take us like 4 or 5 months if we did it. If we just pulled in, at Panama Canal, then pulled in Chile, and then kept going.
It's still amazing. I mean, what a treacherous adventure. You guys go through like Hurricane Harvey and all kinds of
Yeah,
stuff. It was, I mean, pirates, fires, you name it, it was happening. So thank God y'all made that trip, that journey successfully. What I loved is that you, in the film, you run across some UK military members, and they discussed how like mental health was a big deal to them, and,
yep,
and you were talking about the difference in that, and going back to how you were saying, these people come to the VA and they have issues and they're told, sorry, man, see you in 6 months. And so there's that, along with there's no good transition coming out. There's no real talk of mental health while you're in. So it's just like a progression of ignoring mental health. And with what you guys are doing, have there been any opportunities to get in front of just like the government and say, this is a big deal and this is why we're here and like y'all need to be a part of this?
yeah, 100%. When we first started the nonprofit, there was nothing, and it was kind of almost a joke to even mention adventure therapy and the problem with active duty. Um, but that when we met the UK guys, that's to this day still like one of the largest God moments of my life. Imagine like the entire ocean of the entire world in all of the span of time for us to end up next to the one boat in the whole world run by active duty people on an adventure therapy expedition. Like
Right?
on next to our boat,
Yeah.
I just got goosebumps talking about it. I still don't understand how or why that happened. I just try to do that moment justice, but that's still one of my favorite moments. But as far as movement, so even whenever that happened, whenever we were filming this, it was laughed at. Really, when you're trying to raise money for it, or you're talking to people about what you do, and they're like, "What an idiot,"
Hmm.
um, so I think the film's changed a lot of that too, and then just the time. I think that what's really changed is the amount of time that's passed, which was 4 or 5 years ago. How many veterans have gotten out since then? And veterans are pissed off at all of our friends killing themselves. And so a lot of them have done something about it. Like now there's about 60,000 outdoor adventure therapy programs like ours, hiking or hunting around the country. Um, and there's one group that we're a part of. It's called the Veteran Outdoor Advocacy Group, Vogue. And they're spearheading um, the legislative change side of this whole movement.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think there's 16 of us now. There's 16 of programs like ours. There's a mountain climbing one out in California, ice climbing north. There's mountain bike trips in San Antonio, actually, and fishing ones. Anyways, so it's a big group of us. A lot of people that care a lot. In Vogue, 2 years ago, got to present to Congress where they talked about all of these things before them, and that conversation was acknowledged, and Congress was like, yes, this is a problem. We don't know what to do about it. So Congress created the task force and tasked Vogue to be a part of it, to implement adventure therapy programs for active duty members and veterans, and to work with the VA.
Oh,
So
wow.
when you go to the VA, and they're overbooked or whatever reason they come up with, they can send you to one of our programs, and then the VA funds it. I think that's
Really?
that's one of the coolest solutions that's happening now. And this last year, they wrote the bill, brought it to the Congressional Veterans Committee, and it's approved. Now we just need to figure out how to fund it and bring it to the floor. So there's real movement that I'm very excited and positive about, and happy to be a part of. I'm not as jaded about it anymore because there's so many people working to change it, and really there's so many much smarter than I am, people working on this, that I'm absolutely confident it's going to happen. It's government, so what's going to take 10 years, 8 years to
Right.
get it done. But the point is, it's going to happen. There's no not going to happen scenario.
Yeah. The momentum's there. So that's
Yeah,
huge. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
And none of us are
That's
going to stop
amazing.
either.
Yeah, exactly. I know you won't. Well, another thing, I don't know if you've heard of this. I have a friend, she was actually on my podcast. It's a really good episode, but she went through something crazy. She's a psychologist, and I love how she said, they shouldn't call it post traumatic. It's not a disease, right? She's like, it should be
Yep,
called post traumatic stress injury instead of disease. I'm like, I really like that
100%,
because it is. It's like something just got hurt, and it just,
100%. Yep,
things can heal though, right? Some take a lot longer, but healing can happen with an injury. It's not a disease. So I like that a lot. Just thought I'd throw that out there and share with you.
yep. People can understand that too. If you get injured, a broken arm or something, it heals. Just the
Yeah.
same thing with your mind.
So along with like helping with legislative changes and things like that, you have another thing that helps with. I think you use it towards your fundraising, but tell me about the other Cape Horn in your life.
Oh, my baby, yeah. Uh, so the idea for it happened on that film, on that expedition. We were on Cape Horn. Steve and John and I, we all thought we were going to die. One of the many moments we thought we were going to die on that trip. And it's like, man, this one's it. This is the real one. In the film, whenever I was crying at the end. So what missed the film is these weather systems that roll down there. Imagine like these massive cold fronts that blow down to Texas all the way from the north, right? In Texas, we're watching it for 6 days. We're like, oh, okay, it's going to go here. This is how bad it's going to be. And so weather systems that same size roll every 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's insane. Like the magnitude of how quickly
Wow.
these systems move down there is wild. So we uh, we saw one of those systems on the horizon. I was like, in the middle of the ocean where Atlantic and Pacific currents meet, that bad boy's on the horizon. Like, I just killed Steven and John. We're freaking dead. Like, we're not. This is it right here.
Oh,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
what a Greek tragedy. We made it to Cape Horn, and then I'm watching it all play out in my mind. Like, but this is where we die.
Uh-huh.
And so I think being in the military, and then in the sailing community is the same. There's a lot of dark humor there, so we start kind of joking about it. I'm like, well, if we don't die, what are we gonna do? And Stephen, he finished his book, which I highly, highly recommend. If you're a reader, you should read From the Land of Genesis. And
Okay.
I'm and as unbiased as I can say, I think it's the best book about veterans out there. Period.
Hmm.
I think it's on Amazon too. Anyways, so he finished his book and he was trying to get it published. And he was like, well, I'm gonna go back and publish my book, get that going, keep the word going
Mm-hmm.
about about veteran stories. John wanted to come back and become a captain and keep sailing veterans around. And then, like, at this point, I've been doing it for a year and a half, well, 2.5 years, and I was like, I want to find a way to raise money for what we're doing and keep it going, because we relied on a lot of donations, and it was really like you can't make plans, you can't depend on anything because it's a non. Anybody that's worked in a nonprofit knows like it sucks raising money. Most of the time, you don't raise any money at all, and you just have to kind of figure it out. So I hate operating like that, and I wanted to do something about it. So the only other thing that I loved outside of sailing is tequila, like, and not just like a funny drinking away, but like the process of growing agave and how long that takes. It takes 8 to 9 years to grow a good agave. And
Wow.
yeah, there's a lot of love that goes into these plants, and then the distillation process, if you do it right, there's a lot of love that goes into it as well, which we don't have to dive into. That's like a 5-hour conversation that you're going to get me started on.
Okay.
So
Another time.
yeah, so I decided to make tequila and sell it like a basic lemonade stand business plan. Sell it to fund our nonprofit, so we wouldn't have to worry about donations anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, that lived in Mexico, made the tequila, and came back and started to get the manufacturing logistics chains lined up, and then that's when COVID hit, and yeah, that it was a long road of failures.
Oh man, that's
About like three
business for
years.
you.
Yeah, it was like 3 years of failing back to back. Like our first
Then
shipment.
you're doing, if you're failing in business, you're doing it right. You just got to keep fail a bunch.
Oh man, oh yeah, I'm tired of failing.
I hear you.
um, so our first shipment got stuck off the coast of California. I don't. Everybody remembers the news when they're like, "Oh, the shipping containers can't even dock because there's no space." Our container was one of those. I still don't know where that tequila is.
Oh man.
Um, yeah, then went back down there, made some more tequila, went through the whole process again, and then the glue that was used in our corks was bad and tainted all of the tequila, so I lost a whole nother container of tequila. At this point, I'm in a lot of debt, man, and I'm like, this is terrible. Um, but I was like, this is all I want to do with my life is sail and make tequila. So I don't really have another option but to keep going. Finally, we got a container up here of good tequila, and yeah, we're selling it now, just in Texas though, for the moment.
Okay. Well, good to know. So, and it's called Cape Horn, right? Tequila.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, is it all like Texas chains or certain ones?
It's just in Total Wine in Texas.
Total Wine. All right, everybody, check that out for sure. So, well, what else do you guys need? Like, what's a big thing on your checklist for the adventure therapy business?
Yeah, well, the tequila's not really going, so donations always help nonprofits. That's what
Okay.
keeps going. And we I think we're gonna get this grant through the state of Texas this year to be able to start putting people on salary. At least I'm hoping. We don't find out until mid-May if we actually get it or not. But we went and presented to the Texas Veteran Commission and stuff, and I think it went really well. But we could put people on salary to do this full time. I think that would help. That would help the nonprofit a whole lot. And yeah, donations. I mean, because it goes to veterans travel. So the film, we get people reach out every single day, family members, other veterans, active duty people, and they all ask for help. Like, can I come sail for a week with you guys? I need to get away. I need help. Or a wife is like, my husband's super fucked up. He needs to get away. He needs to go with you guys. Can you get him down? And so that kind of lights the process off with Samantha, who you've been communicating with, my better, smarter half. She's our executive director. Is much better at logistics and organizing than I am. She
Nice.
starts the process of like, do you need a plane ticket? Do you need money to travel down here? And then arranging all their gear and food for the whole time we're here. Because whenever, kind of the example that we talk about with our team and with Samantha is like, whenever I was that bad and I wanted to kill myself, I wanted one reason to not get any help at all. If somebody's like, "Hey man, why don't you come out and do this with me? Why don't you come away?" I remember one person invited me to go hunting with them, which would have been really good for me. And they're like, "Yeah, it's 7 hours away." I was like, "I don't have any money, dude. I'm not freaking driving out there." Like, I just wanted
Yeah.
something to just remain in the darkness.
Distract you.
So
Yeah.
our goal with the nonprofit, and people should know, especially if you're thinking about donating, is all of the money goes to getting them out to us, taking care of them while they're with us, and then keeping the boat moving. That's what every single dollar goes to. Um,
Okay.
and so, yeah, I mean, that's why donations are crucial.
Well, that's good for us to know. And I mean, I know you've mentioned a few things, but what would you say has been the biggest challenge this year?
Oh my God, dude, the Ocean Globe race. Holy crap, we got our asses kicked. It's terrible.
Ocean Globe Race. Now, what was that?
It's a race around the world. It's the 50th anniversary of the very first original crude race around the world, the Whitbread race, and Don McIntyre brought it back. And so this is like the first time anything has been done like this in our generation, where you sail around the world with the original technology they use. So there isn't any GPS. There's no autopilots. It's all celestial navigation. Somebody's at the helm the entire time. Somebody's working lines. There's not a button you push, because all of the sailing races now today, like the Vendée Globe, the one that just finished, the solo race around the world, you push a button and it pulls all your lines in, or pulls the sail down for you. Like, you
Oh,
can do it with
nice.
one person, super easy. The hardest thing about doing a race today is just being away from your friends and family, for real. It's like
Mm,
anybody can do it. You don't have to
really?
be. You don't have to have. There's no grit at all. Maybe for like 20 seconds of your whole trip, you have to be like, "Oh, I gotta push through the water, getting in my suit." Like, that's what, for real. It's like $30 million boats, and everybody pampers you when you're on shore. You don't even do any of the work on your boat. So, anyways, Don, I get super motivated about this because I love everything about it. Don McIntyre brought it back because there's a underground scene of sailors who want to really sail and watch that race happen again. And
Hmm.
so he built it, and then we brought a team of veterans from the States. And sailing in America is like, not like, you're a bum, right? And if you're a sailor here, like, it's not very seen really well. But in Europe and Australia and especially New Zealand, sailing's like the NFL. Like, it's the biggest sport, bigger than soccer. Like, whenever the first or one of the last Whitbread races finished, it was a boat from France won, and it was the same day the World Cup happened and France won, and the sailboat was on the front page, not the World Cup. Like, that completely
No way.
sums up. Yeah, for real. So we bring a team of veterans on Godspeed, which she was the smallest boat in the race, and obviously we were the least funded by 50%. The closest person to it. So we're just making it happen, and then this was like a year and a half project. We got to the start line in England, and then the first leg of the race was from England to Cape Town, and we started the race without any issues, and then we got through. We were about to get out of the Bay of Biscay. This is like, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks. I can't remember, maybe 2.5 weeks. And yeah, we got hit by this monster storm and broke our boom in half, which isn't
Mm,
going to make a lot of sense to people, but it's a serious component of the sailboat
right.
that works for the mainsail. Anyways, broke that in half, had to pull inshore and fix it, and then that set us back on our timeline. So we didn't make the
Oh,
second
that's a
leg of the
shame.
race. We still made it to
Yeah.
Cape Town, but everybody was already gone by the time we got there.
And you tried, right? So how big is that boat? Godspeed.
51 feet.
Okay. Nice.
For us, that's really big. For the serious
Yeah.
sailing world, we're, the cute little guy that they're like, "Oh, we're so proud of you for being here," kind of.
Oh, how cute.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. Well, Taylor, thank you so much again for sharing your story and sharing what you do, which is so important. And obviously, it's not in vain, right? Things are happening, and sometimes things are slower than we want, but you just got to keep pushing. And I'm glad you're doing that. How could people connect with you?
The best way to get like in touch with me is through the Skeleton Crew or Hell IC's website, because the Hell ICs will go to our producers, and then the Skeleton Crew goes straight to Samantha and our social media
Okay.
volunteers, and they'll send it to me, because usually I'm at sea, right? And then whenever I get back to land, I've got like 200 emails. Um, so they'll ping me.
Do y'all have a website for Skeleton Crew?
Yep, SkeletonCrewAdventures.org.
Well, very cool. And I have something fun to announce, and I'm glad that this is the episode that I'm announcing it on. I have partnered with a company called Soldier Socks. They were born in 2010 and their mission is to provide high quality American made socks to military members. And Taylor can agree, socks are really important. A
Very
good,
much.
good sock. And every sock that's purchased, they give a pair. So they could buy a pair, give a pair. So it's pretty cool. And you can use promo code NOISE and get 10% off. So go to Soldier Socks, SOLEDIER, socks.com. Check them out. They're really cool socks. And like I said, really well made. Get your 10% off, and they'll donate a pair to a military member. And if you want to connect with me, you can go to edwinaadams.com and find me wherever you would like to connect, okay? Thank you guys. Have a good day and keep making noise.
Let's Make Some Noise is produced by Podcast Architects.